Hello, my name is... well, I do not have a name. I have not been given one in my lifetime, but I can give you a description of myself. I am 15 feet tall and I have red, sharpened eyes. I guess you could say I have eyes like a feline. My dark, leathery, and rough skin merges with the darkness in the trees around me, camouflaging me to my surroundings. I have no legs, no nose, no mouth. Only eyes, arms, and a body. My claws are razor sharp, so it's easier for me to feed. I do not eat with a mouth, because, as I said before, I do not have one. I eat with my hands. See, I have these holes in my palms. I grind up the meat with my claws and push it into the holes. Because I don't eat as much as I wish to, I am fairly thin. What do I eat, you ask? Well, I eat the meat of boys. But not just any boys. Those idiotic boys known as swag fags. Those boys who wear obey hats, and those boys who think that they are able to do anything because YOLO. No specific reason, just YOLO. But not a lot of them come around where I live. Sometimes, if I am lucky, one of them stumbles into my woods. Let me tell you a nice story of one of my most wonderful feats. Well, I guess you could say wonderful. This was a boy named Christian Blue, a nice 15-year-old boy. He was very well built for his age, but sadly took the wrong path. Christian was one of these boys I needed to continue on with my life. This boy worked at a sawmill in the middle of the woods in which I lived. He had worked 6 days a week in the summertime, 10 hours each day. Every day he would come into work with one of those moronic YOLO shirts and an obey hat on. Now, you may think I was stalking this boy, but I assure you, I had much better things to do than watch this boy work day in and day out. I would notice he goes into the sawmill because he walks right by the area in which I live. One beautiful night on the last day of Christian's summer vacation, he stayed at the sawmill late, just as I had hoped so. I had to make my move. I was getting very hungry. I began on my way to the mill. The door was large, so it was easy for me to go in, but I had to duck my head down. He was working at one of the machines, so I closed the door silently so he would not notice me, and then flicked off the lights.
Who's there?
I heard him say in a trembling voice. He normally was alone all day, as he worked, so it wasn't surprising that he was scared. Slowly, I used my hands to lift myself towards him, making no noise. I heard his soft footsteps against the concrete floor and his hands on the stone wall, trying to find the light switch.
Seriously, this isn't funny. Who are you? Where are you?
Christian spoke into the darkness. I kept silent, leading myself towards the sound of his heavy breathing. I could not see either, so I decided to make it easier for me. My eyes began to glow a demonic red color, lighting the parts of the room wherever I looked, shining in the eerie darkness. His footsteps stopped urgently. I looked at where I heard his last step. He was staring at me in pure fear, and I loved it. I stalked towards him as he bolted towards the door. Once he got to it, he quickly flipped on the lights and saw me in my full form. A loud, blood-curdling scream escaped from his lips once he looked at me, pulling with all his might at the door. I couldn't let my food get away that quickly. I pushed my hand against the door, stopping it from opening, though one of his hands was already in the door, so when I used my strength to push the door closed, it crushed his hand at the wrist, pulling it off. I did not mean for this to happen, but I just continued on with what I needed to do. He screamed bloody murder as I grabbed him.
What the fuck are you?
Christian screamed, pulling at my grip. Now, I do not eat living things, so I had to kill him before I fed. I looked around and saw a wood chipper in the room. I reached and pulled it over. He began screaming once he noticed what I was reaching for. I used his head to hit the button, turning it on.
Please, Don't kill me. I'm begging you.
He screamed, bawling his eyes out.
I can be your friend. Please, spare my life.
I looked at him, his head bleeding and his arm hanging off one of my claws, causing them to be a crimson red. As I sat myself down on my stump of a waist, his obey hat fell from his head, showing his short, blonde hair, with the sound of the wood chipper drowning out his heavy breathing in the background. I didn't do anything, just stayed there.
Please.
He spoke in a weak voice, sweating and thrashing the best he could in my hand. I began to bring him closer to the ground, thinking to myself, should I spare this boy's life and accept his friendship? What if he's lying, and the minute I put him down, he runs and tells the police about me? But what if he is speaking the truth and he actually will be my friend? I am quite lonely, being the only one of my kind. I had a decision to make. Keep him alive and risk being found, or kill him and continue to be lonely. I decided to throw his body into the chipper, denying his request of friendship. The ear-lacerating screams that were forced from his throat as his body was being ground up in the chipper made a tear come to my eye. I quickly placed my hand over the chipper nozzle, looking down at the ground as I fed, a bit upset at what I have just done, catching the ground-up meat that shot out, feasting on it. Any human-like emotion I may have had were quickly chased away by the taste of his blood and flesh, though I still longed for friendship. But the bloodlust in my veins control me. You had best change your ways before your feet find the path into my woods.